to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. My first guest today is Andrée Brooks, author of many books and writer. And I read something she wrote in the Wall Street Journal about retirement. Something retirement, right? Hi, thanks for being on the show. Okay, you pick a particularly interesting topic, retirement, and you relate it to entertaining in the home. Let's get to the heart of this retirement issue, and you talk about it. There's lots of stuff written about financially about how to plan for retirement. There isn't very much written, Andrée, about how to live with retirement. And you touch on that in your writings.
I suppose because there's no money to be made from telling people how to live, and there's a lot of money to be paid from trying to encourage them to use their money wisely.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of the folks have money, but a lot of folks are miserable in retirement. They don't have a social connection. They don't have an identity.
Well, that was the point of the article.
And that was the point of your writings. So tell us a little bit something about that.
Well, what I was looking at is the idea that we've lost the joy of bringing friends into our home. Everybody moans and groans they haven't got time. Well, that's before they retire. And they also moan and groan about it being too much work, and they don't want to cook, and they don't want to clean, and they don't want to clean up the clutter before they get there, and on and on and on. But actually, in the old days, and not so old days, because I think I remember when I was a child, so it can't be that old, I hope.
I hope not.
That people were constantly coming by. I think it was before the days of having to call and having to email and having to make arrangements, and to even children, of course, have play dates today. Nobody drops by. But dropping by is a wonderful idea. And my point was not to drop by. My point was to encourage people, come over for the evening, have supper with me. Well, you have to cook. I don't mind cooking. You know, it's so pleasurable to have somebody in your home.
Well, let's talk about some of that. And I don't know necessarily that it has to do with retirement or not retirement. I happen to work full time and always have, and I entertain in my, at least certainly in my country, a lot. The city, maybe not as much, but still. You know, you touched on something. I'm wondering if there's a connection between this lack of entertaining. You talk about discourse, how much you can just talk to people sitting in an armchair. I'm wondering if there's not some connection to the internet and all this media stuff and all this mental. Have you ever tried to make a social date with email?
Well, that's the way they do it all the time.
It's exhausting.
Yes, that's where it's
I'm available Wednesday. Well, I'm not available until Thursday. Well, what time are you available? Well, I'm not here. What about this? Sometimes 4, 5, 6, 7 emails go by when it could be a simple conversation. Hello, you free to go out Tuesday night? How about Park Avenue Cafe?
Well, maybe in light of this, we should encourage people sometimes, if it's somebody that they know, to pick up the phone and not always worry about sending them an email. It might be just easy to pick up the phone, but then they'll say, I don't want to pick up the phone because they're never there, and then they have to phone back, and then we play telephone tag. So that's the reason. But this idea that face-to-face, to sit down and have a conversation where you're not in a restaurant where you feel pressured, where you're not in a restaurant where there's so much noise that you can't even hear what the other person is saying.
Many times,
I don't know, Judith, whether you've noticed it, but when you're out, anywhere out, you somehow don't open up. There is some formality between you, or distance between you and the other person, that never breaks down.
I agree. In fact, and if you're trying to, I happen to have been having a very interesting conversation with a younger member of my family just yesterday in a restaurant, and we were getting to a topic that was touchy, that I had a door opening to get to. And the minute I got ready to ask my important question, the waiter interrupted. Can I take your order? And that moment, that opportunity, Andrée, was lost to me.
Well, that's why the home...
I couldn't recapture that closeness that I just had at that moment.
It won't happen outside the house. That's why the house is the home. I mean, it doesn't have to be an elaborate house. It could be, that's not the point. The point is you're in my home, you're sitting in an armchair in my living room or in the kitchen. I mean, what about the kitchen? You remember what kids always say after they grow up about when their mothers used to be in the kitchen making the spaghetti, how that was such a warm moment and a moment to unburden themselves. Right. Those kinds of occasions aren't there.
I taught for a living before I did many other things, retail. And the mentor, when I was student teaching, I student taught at Hunter College High School, my mentor said the best desk is the kitchen table. That's where kids learn.
So I think today what you have to do is you have to make the effort. It's not going to happen naturally like it used to. So you're going to have to get on that phone or that email and invite people over, and then before you know it, it mushrooms. And don't feel you have to have an elaborate spread for them. I don't think that's the point.
That isn't the point. But I want to ask you about spreading. As I say, I'm an entertainer. I do entertain. But sometimes I say, gee, I've had them over for brunch a couple of times. They never invite me back. And so I say to myself, oh, the heck with it. I'm not going to put myself out for them again.
That actually may be a mistake.
Tell me how you feel about that.
Yeah, when I was doing some research for this piece, that came up constantly. Well, why should I bother to have so-and-so over? He never asked me back, or she or they or whatever it was. You can't expect to ask somebody over so they reciprocate. It doesn't matter. Does it not bring you pleasure? Yes, it does. You get a lot of pleasure about having these people in your home, so don't worry about it. It'll come back to you another way. It'll come back to you with a closeness. It'll come back to you if you need something to come back to you. It'll come back to you in a favor, a different way. So, I mean, to me, to have people in my home makes it lively. There's noise, there's laughter, there's warmth. Why do you have to worry about whether they invite you back? Does it matter to you?
Well, I suppose we live in a tit-for-tat society, Andrée, you know.
But you can do the tat another way.
You can do the tit and the tat, right. You bring out another point that I think is important that goes along with this. We open up the conversation with retirement. When someone retires, there's a certain loss of social connectedness. You don't have a lot of people to talk to. And this starting some kind of a book club or a round robin, you talk about a potluck supper, it's a way to start to build back some of this social connectedness. And all the research does show that people who are connected socially live longer.
Absolutely.
And we also, the other thing is, too, about retirement, we live a lot longer in retirement than we used to.
Well, not everybody retires anymore, as you know.
Yeah, right.
They just go on and do something different.
Or they had started a third career or something else. Right, yes, exactly.
Do you think, because I do, that sometimes the pace, the frenetic pace in which we work during the height of our career perhaps takes away from that opportunity? You just don't know how to do it, you know, and it hurts to stop running. I'm running as fast as I can.
Well, the other thing is, it really hurts. I think it hurts to stop doing it because you're so used to doing it. And I think you also feel your ego gets very wounded. You feel, you know, you don't have an identity. You feel unwanted. You feel like your opinions are not worthy. There is a real decline I have found in retirement.
Yes,
there is a real decline in your own persona, your own identity of yourself.
Yes, you feel you're on the slag heap. Yes.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So I think that bringing people into your home is not the only way. There are a myriad of other ways, as we know. You go out to work, you volunteer, you do this, you do that, whatever you want to do, you start a little business that you always wanted to start, whatever it is. Even those things, bringing somebody into your home is a huge advantage. I'll tell you one little story.
Yes.
Somebody wanted to see me in connection with the lecturing business, because I do a lot of lecturing with my books and everything else. And she wanted to meet me before she had me into her group, because she sort of feels that's important. And I was going to have lunch with her out in a restaurant. And then she said, well, I'm coming to your town near where you are, what was it, Thursday or Wednesday. Why don't we meet there for coffee? So I said immediately to her, this was only last week, come to my house. Don't let's go, you know, have coffee out. Come to my house. It was so near. And it was a lovely afternoon, one of the few we've had. And she came over, and I had made iced coffee, and I'd made my homemade oatmeal cookies that everybody loves. And by the time she left, my goodness, was she a fast friend? I was not only going for a lecture, she got to do a mini course at my... I mean, it was incredible for business, because she felt the other thing, when someone's in your home, you trust them.
Right.
You begin to trust them.
It is a big honor to be invited into somebody's house.
Today, it is
Yes.
a big honor.
It's a big honor.
But you change the dynamic of your friendship.
Absolutely. I remember, in fact, I think I yearn for those days. I remember the days when you did business and you met with people eyeball to eyeball, and you established the most important thing in any business relationship, a trust. You can't build trust over the email.
No, and nor in a restaurant. I really believe that taking somebody out is good, but it doesn't quite. It's the last step.
Maybe it's afterward.
But you know, in the old days, you know, when women were not out in the workplace as much, to go, you know, like the Mad Men sort of days.
The Drapers.
Yeah. The wives considered her role to be to entertain the business friends of her husband. It was part of her.
In fact, many jobs, that's what it became, a husband and wife, with the women, with the wife doing entertaining.
But the wife's role in entertaining was so often a way for the man to really move ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I remember those, right.
Yeah.
Still, and I tell you, I think it still is to a certain extent.
Yes, but they don't do it. They'll say, come over, we'll go out together. We'll go out somewhere. Fine. But if you take that extra step, it's enriching for you, it's enriching for your career. It's just a good idea. Now, how do you manage the food? Because that's why Food
Give us a couple of tips. Give us a couple of tips. So we have a few minutes left for that.
Food Network is so great today because nobody wants to do the cooking. They only want to do the watching the cooking. I think that is overrated. It's very easy to put together something simple for people. Do something that you put on the table, something that you can put together easily. Right. Try not to say, I've got to buy cooked food and bring it in. It's not quite. You haven't then got that extra step when you're giving them something you've made yourself.
Well, in the summer, too, if you can do it, of course, summer's over, but we happen to have a house in the country, and I have to say, I had I must say about my own, the most delicious lunch last Sunday where I buy people corn on the cob, sliced tomatoes, sliced onions,
all you need.
Watermelon and melon, and you know, I didn't even have meats. I had some cheeses, and I bought a bread. I have to say, everybody say, "Oh my God!" And I didn't even have a protein. I had corn and tomatoes.
But you also weren't cooking.
I wasn't cooking, and I enjoyed it.
Well, that's the point too.
I enjoyed it. A good bottle of wine helped.
Oh yeah, every time.
Right. Well, I liked what you said about bringing people back in home. And so it really is a lost art. But you know, I don't want, and I don't want to live with the idea that you can't be a working woman and do it. That's nonsense. I find that the busier women are the ones that do entertain. How's that?
Well, if you want something done, you always ask the busiest person.
Right. Okay. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm Judith West. You're watching Getting Your Money's Worth. Thanks for watching.